I can't. So I gotta go ahead and hit OBS.
Yeah, can't forget that.
Well, when we're doing it same day, when I have to edit same day, because this won't actually post on YouTube. And hi YouTube out there, because we're doing this right now as we speak. So I'm setting up. This won't post on YouTube until 2 o'clock tomorrow morning. So I have to go ahead and set up for Facebook Live. So we'll do this on Facebook Live as well. Hope everybody is well and watching and all that good stuff. Get stream key, which I will do. I'll share it on Pop Culture Cosmos. So how you been, man? Everything good? While we're on this, just recording on YouTube.
Yeah, man, good. Just getting used to that. Well, I mean, school's done, so I'm just trying to phase myself into taking a couple weeks off before I start putting the pedal to the metal on anything new here. So I have a summer as a teacher. I have a summer, so that's nice. I
There you
haven't
go.
slowed down in a long time, so I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm all right, all right, and just want to see what we're getting going here. Do you want to give everybody a heads up that we've got over 500 podcasts now on the Pop Culture Cosmos channel. So if you want to check out any of the 500 podcasts we got there, please do so. It's just greatly appreciated. Just to let everybody know as well, we're continuing the countdown and some great stuff on our popculturecosmos.com website as well. So, all right, 50 to
Check it out.
59 in our top 500 ish. Oh, what 500? 100 ish movie countdown. All right, and we'll be underway with our show in just a second. Just making sure I get everything together. Because, I should have had everything together while you were en route, but I did not have that prepared, and shame on me. Studio mode. Okay, StreamYard. Okay, got that. Okay, you're there. But everything's all right, man?
Yeah, it's all good. It's all
Okay.
good.
All
Just
right,
wish the
man.
weekends were longer.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. So I'm starting streaming there. And then alright, so that works. Okay, got everything going. The music chair. Spike music streaming. Alright, here we go. There goes nothing. On this week's episode, the musical chairs for movies continue. Spike Lee has a streaming hit on his hands, and is Naughty Dog saving the best for last? All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Game Source, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you get a chance, please check out all the stuff we've been putting out lately on the Lakers Fast Break channel or the Pop Culture Cosmos channel, which is now over 500 podcasts on that channel. So you've got plenty to choose from right there at Pop Culture Cosmos, wherever you get your podcasts. But it isn't a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's our own musical chair for Pop Culture Cosmos. You gotta check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. Pop Culture Cosmos on YouTube, Facebook, also his great show Topicocalypse, plus his book, which you gotta get today at Amazon and Barnes & Noble, called Congratulations, You Suck. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What's up? What is a musical chair? What is the reference?
Well, the reference, thank you for setting that up for me, my friend, but the reference is for all the musical chairs the movie studios are now taking place and now doing, because it seems to be this perpetual music chairs going on because of all the dates that are changing. And we're going to discuss a lot of those maneuvers here in a second, because there's a lot of films, big time films, that are changing dates. We're going to give you an update on a few of them coming up here in a sec. Plus, also as well, later on in the program, we're going to be talking about The Last of Us 2 as far as being a great game coming out. We're going to give you the heads up on what the critics say so far for it, because it is coming out this week on Friday. So we want to give you a heads up on that. And speaking of Naughty Dog, we want to make a little bit of a correction. Josh had said that the new Ratchet Clank is from Naughty Dog that's coming out to PlayStation 5. It's actually from Insomniac, which is also doing the Miles Morales standalone game that's coming out later this year as well, or at least scheduled to. But Josh, I want to tell you something right now, if you want to get on the mic here. You can go ahead and give yourself a big pat on the back, my friend, because I'm watching Emergency Awesome the other day on YouTube, one of the largest pop culture YouTube channels that's out there. And he's talking exactly what you had spoken about 2 days before, about how the Spider-Man it's a standalone game, which we all assumed, you and I both assumed that it would be, but you also were right that it was going to be more in line with what you saw with Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, where it's not as large or as deep or as wide or as, I guess, long, for lack of a better term, than what the other games is, because you had said that it's just a 2-year turnaround time. So you said it would still be a full game, but not quite as full as maybe the first Spider-Man around.
Yes, yeah. I mean, that was what I was thinking. Because just look at the development time, 2 years, and that seems a bit off for such a large scale game. From what I understand, the Spider-Man game took Insomniac several years to make. I think they were working. It started development, 4 or 5 years before it came out. So, yeah, it seemed like there was a weird lapse in development time. So that's why I was saying maybe originally it was planned to be a DLC, and then they decided to build, and it built itself beyond the realms of a simple add-on, and they decided to make it into a full game, and that's awesome. I hope that it gives fans everything they want. It just doesn't seem like it's going to be as much of a game as Spider-Man was.
Well, it won't be as fresh, I guess. It'll have, obviously, the great character Miles Morales, and it'll have a lot of the same things that he runs up against in his version of the comic books. But I don't think it'll feel as fresh to fans as what they experienced with Spider-Man. But Spider-Man was a critically acclaimed hit. Players loved it. You loved it. A lot of people out there loved it. And if that's the case, it's more like, it's coming out at the end of a cycle for video games in a generation where you're just going to get a lot more of a good thing. And that's not a bad thing at all. That's actually very good for gamers.
Yeah, and I imagine, because I mean, think about this. They already have the assets built, the cities, a lot of the NPCs walking around and stuff like that. So I imagine they're going to be reusing a lot of that. I would hope that they'd add in new places to explore in addition to the new narrative. But yeah, I'm still going to play it. I'm excited about it. And in reference to, so I don't sound like an idiot, the Insomniac thing. My bad. I was still thinking about Spider-Man when we were talking about Last of Us. So sorry.
Make those corrections just before the show. It happens. I mean, we're going on 200 episodes of the Pop Culture Cosmos, man. It even happens to the best of us. But we make sure we make up for our faux pas, so to speak, when we're talking and shooting off the hip and off the top of our head, like we do, pretty much all the time. And I'll tell you what, right now we've got a pretty good track record. So I'll stick with what we do for a living and what we do right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. But I will tell you this, Miles Morales, I'm looking forward to the game. it may not be a completely different design, or may just use the same engine, or may use a lot of the same assets that we saw in Spider-Man. But I'll tell you what, my friend, this is going to be something that's going to be more of a good thing, and that cannot be bad at all. I'm going to enjoy this. I'm going to appreciate this, and Spider-Man Miles Morales will be one of the biggest games of the holiday season because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I mean, Spider-Man it's a huge property. It doesn't matter who is behind the mask. The character is always interesting, and I would hope that the writing for this is as good as the writing for the Miles Morales comic books. Is even in his beyond what Michael Bendis has done with the character. I hope that it's on par. It gives fans something to that will endure for a long time.
Well, I'll tell you what, my friend, there's going to be more that we're going to be talking about on today's show. Not only the musical chairs going on with movie dates, not only The Last of Us 2 coming up on the back end of the show, but also as well, we're going to be talking about Spike Lee's latest hit, Defy Bloods, that's now on Netflix. I'm going to tell you right now, you got to go check out this movie. It's very good. The critics' ratings are really strong for it. It's got right now an 81 on Metacritic. We're going to talk about not only the movie itself a little bit, but we're also going to be talking about the fact that Spike Lee is now, obviously doing a film for straight to Netflix. We've seen Martin Scorsese, we've seen other big name actors and performers, and now directors heading to that medium as far as streaming is concerned. Is this going to be the wave of the future for top level directors and actors going forward? But also, we would be remiss without telling you as well. We're going to be giving you an update on our top 100-ish movie countdown with number 50 to 59. So we'll go ahead and have some sweet memories of some movies that we know and love out there because you guys voted on it, and your 50 to 59 movies coming up in our top 100-ish movie countdown is coming up later in the program as well. But my friend, let's start off with right now the musical chairs that are going on within the realm of Hollywood, because there's a lot to talk about right there when it comes to all the different changing release dates. I know a lot of people out there are getting confused. A lot of people out there are not knowing when these movies are actually going to come out. Why, these things are always changing all the time. I'm going to give everybody a heads up, and then I want to hear your thoughts. The latest to do some changing is Warner Brothers and some other movies as well. But we're going to start off with Warner Brothers movies. Tenet, which you and I are both talked about last week, and you and I are both looking so forward to. We think this is really going to be a big hit, even in the middle of a pandemic. Tenet is moved a couple weeks back. It's moved to July 31st. Wonder Woman, that was a big surprise. That was really geared towards... It actually got moved from a July date, I think, originally, to an August date. I think this is the third move now, because now it's not only moved from August, it's now moved into October from August. So it's moved from June to July to August to October of this year. So it's really got a lot of changes for that one. But yes, the latest deal is that it's moving to October 2nd. The latest James Bond flick, No Time to Die, that's moving 5 days up on the schedule in November. So that's something that people need to be aware of right in the middle of that holiday viewing, that No Time to Die for James Bond is moved 5 days up. Godzilla vs. Kong moves from November. It's moving out of that spot, that general time frame with all that stuff going on, because it's going to be a very busy holiday season for moviegoers. And that's moving to May 2021. So it's moving right around the time for the Memorial Day weekend and all that, in 2021. And Matrix 4, that's moving from that May 2021 spot to April of 2022. So we will not see Keanu Reeves as Neo once again until April of 2022. Plus a couple other movies. The Witches from Robert Zemeckis, that has been completely taken off the schedule. So now that's going to be under heavy speculation that might become a straight-to-streaming or video-on-demand movie. And Tom and Jerry, I'm assuming that's going to be the animated feature from the long-standing cat and mouse animated animated cartoons that we, some of us older people like myself know and are familiar with, and maybe some younger as well. That's moving from December 2020 to May 2021. So I gave you the list, my friend. That's a big list of just constant movie shaking, and that doesn't account for all the stuff that Disney's done recently. I want to hear your thoughts, man, when it comes to all these movies changing around. Is there anyone that you're disappointed by the most, and what does this say about the constant changing release dates for movies?
I mean, I'm not disappointed. I was hoping to see Tenet sooner rather than later, but I mean, it only got pushed back a couple of weeks. But as for the others, like I would honestly be surprised if these were even concrete release dates. I don't think these movie studios know what to expect. I don't think they know. They're just kind of hoping that things will look good around that time, and if they don't, they'll probably keep pushing them back and back and back. And my question to you would be, how many times can you move film release dates before you finally face the decision of having to figure out if you're going to release it on demand or not?
And in the case of some of these, if you do not want to push them back to 2021 or 2022, like let's take The Witches, Robert Zemeckis' The Witches, for instance. That was moved off of I think a 2021 release date, and that's just been not given any release date at all. I have a feeling that movie, that movie is going to be heading possibly. In fact, I'm sorry, that actually was an October 9, 2020 release date. That actually has been taken off entirely. So I think that one could be primed to just say, you know what, the film company this time wants to cut its losses and just put that straight to streaming. You could see other things like this Tom and Jerry movie that's been moved to May 2021. That could be a prime, candidate to go to straight to streaming, because we saw what happened with Scoob and Trolls World Tour. Any of these movies that do not look like they're going to be able to be a breakout hit of some type or get people in, I think that's the key. Will the movie that you have on the schedule right now, will that bring people in? And if it's not going to bring people in, or at least you don't think it will, then you know what? I think it's a prime candidate to move to a streaming or video on demand format.
Well, even a movie like Wonder Woman, like there's so much money on the line. I'm curious if that's a bill they're willing to risk. Like if say people don't go back to the movie theater, say you release this movie on October 2nd, people don't go to watch it, then all that money that they put into marketing and stuff could have been used to market it towards an on-demand audience. So I mean, it still feels like they're risking quite a bit on the on the gamble that in October things are going to be back to normal. And I guess like Tenet will decide. By October they should know like what it's going to look like, especially if Tenet's coming out in July. But I mean, it's still. There's a lot of money on the line, especially with a big film like Wonder Woman, or even I guess I'm sure 2021 things will be a little bit better. But yeah, there's a lot of money on the line, and it's they're gambling with this, and I'm curious if it's going to pay off or not.
I'm curious as well. I mean, the movie industry as a whole has lost billions of dollars by now, my friend. I mean, we're talking what something this time last year we were already talking about how well Avengers Endgame was doing, and we were talking about how that was heading towards being the number one movie of all time. And now flash forward to a year later and look at us, man. It's not even close. It's something that I think a lot of these movie companies are going to be seriously headed towards some hard times, and they have to make some hard decisions on some of these movies. They will never, as far as at least the movies that are coming up within the next year to year and a half, I don't think any of those movies will ever regain or recoup all the money that it would have gotten had there not been a coronavirus. Let's put that out there right now. I think you're going to probably, and yeah, I think you said it best. I think it wasn't going to be until 2022 or 2023 before you see enough people feeling like, okay, it's safe to go back to the theaters before they do go back to theaters. But then again, the question comes, will they want to go back to theaters because they will have become so used to getting everything on demand or in a streaming format. So there is quite a bit of concern by the theater industry that there may not be much of a theater industry or as much of a theater industry as there once was once this coronavirus thing has become a little bit less of such a pandemic. You know, we've found a vaccine and all that, and people are able to go ahead and live somewhat normal lives once again.
You know, it's interesting because I'm in Texas, and I was assuming, once things started opening up and stuff things have been open for a while, but I've been assuming that like the mask would come off, the hand sanitizer would disappear from everywhere. But in all reality, it seems to have people seem to be double downing on that stuff, or doubling down on that stuff now that there are more people out and about. So I look at what does the reopening of a movie theater look like, and there's a couple theaters open out here, but like what would it look like with a big release? And I don't see it being something that people are going to freely, not freely, but just walk into without some level of consideration. You're muted.
I wasn't muted on the Facebook Live, but I got to mute myself on the stream here. I know it's a little bit of a dance I have to do each and every time. I just wanted to tell you right now, my friend, it is going to be a little bit of a persuasion act that has to be going on. And I know that the movie theaters are trying to put older movies that were big hits like Inception and some others back onto the screen to try and draw people in before the big movies come into play. But it's going to be a situation where a lot of people are afraid to go back to theaters. You and I spoke about it last week when we were talking about Tenet. If for you, Tenet is the movie that's going to bring you back into theaters. If there's any movie for me that might bring me back into theaters right now, it would be Tenet. But I'm not even sure if that's going to be the case because I'm kind of concerned about going to the theaters and the safety and all that. So it is going to be a situation where everybody out there is going to have to think about whether or not they want to put themselves at a certain level of risk. But then again, we do that every day when we go to the grocery store, or we go to the park, or we go to anywhere that we're in contact with other people.
Yeah, very true. But I guess like the only difference would be that you're not, I guess, sitting in a room with strangers and just kind of not moving. You're at least you're like in motion, so you're not staying around people for an extended period of time because you're always in motion. But with a movie theater, you are sitting down, you are enjoying, you are sitting there, and people are going to be coughing and sneezing and stuff like that. So I mean, it's honestly like at this point I'm willing to risk it, but I mean that's a personal decision that I'm making. It's not going to be the same for everybody else. But you turned on a light in my head for a second here, and I got to ask you this: what do you think that the Academy Awards are going to look like for this year? Because
they've got to include streaming. They've got to include streaming films.
They have to. There would be no categories.
Yeah, and well, just to let you know, well, first off, before I go more into that, because that leads me into the Five Bloods. Remember, I worked on Outbreak. And people who've seen Outbreak, and I know there's a lot of people now that have seen Outbreak now that the outbreak of pandemic has taken place, because a lot of people have looked at that movie lately within the past few months. There's the movie theater scene, and need I say more? But I tell you this, my friend, it is kind of being fearful out there as far as the theater's concerned. But when it comes to something like the Oscars, yeah, they have to really strongly consider using straight to video on demand, straight to streaming theaters, straight to streaming options, because in the past they would only consider them if they appeared in they did the minimum. They appeared in a theater in New York and LA by Christmas Day. That was the deal. That they at least they do that. But even if they were going straight to theaters, straight to video on demand, that's the thing now that they should reconsider, at least for this year, if not going forward, because you've got some major heavyweight actors, you've got some major heavyweight directors, and these are not movies that are throwaway anymore. We're not, when we talk about video on demand, we still see every now and then on video on demand some movies that would never make it to the light of day on theaters, even with some decent name actors out there. I don't want to say anybody out there that's fans of a certain actor. I don't want to say, but when you go to you're looking on your video on demand, you're looking at your streaming options. There were some movies by some big name actors that went straight to video, and you realize in the past that it probably wasn't a good movie. That's probably why it went straight to video. Those days are not necessarily there anymore because, yeah, there's still the junk movies that are going to video on demand, but there are some really, really good movies. I mean, The Irishman was an okay movie. I thought it was alright. I thought it was a little bit long and had some issues, but that earned wide acclaim. And outside of, again, just appearing on the minimum amount of theaters in, so it could be eligible for the Oscars, that was a great, catch for Netflix. But now with that, we've got Da 5 Bloods with Spike Lee's latest. Spike Lee is a heavyweight director out there in Hollywood, and he is putting his stuff on straight to Netflix. That's a sign to me that not only are they getting A-list actors, they're getting A-list directors, and they're getting really, really good movies heading to a streaming format. The movie's gotten an 81 on Metacritic right now, strong reviews. Delroy Lindo is getting high acclaim and high praise and could be up for a Best Actor right now. He's already one of the hot candidates to become a Best Actor for a Best Actor nod. So I'll tell you what, right now, that is something a lot of people have to consider. But yes, Josh, I mean, when we're talking about the Oscars and we're talking about the Academy Awards and the Golden Globes and all that stuff for movies, we have to now strongly consider these movies that went straight to video, that are getting high praise and high acclaim, that they now need to be just at a level and that they don't have to go ahead and go to any extra lengths to become eligible for the Academy Awards.
Yeah, you'd have to loosen up not lower, but loosen your standards a little bit because it's been such a weird year and things have not been released. Things that were supposed to come out this year are being pushed back to next year and even the year after that. So it's a very odd year indeed, and this would be a good time, and that begs another question. If they allow movies from Netflix or Amazon or whatever it might be into the awards this year, what does that mean? They're going to be excluded next year when more things come out? This is going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, let's say you and I are sitting on the Academy Board, and we're sitting there and we're making the decisions on this. Is this a moving forward type thing that you think that now that streaming channels and streaming outlets, and whether it's HBO Max, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Apple Plus, that just got a Tom Hanks movie that's coming on the way as well. I mean, these are some heavyweight films that are heading over to these streaming outlets directly. I think for the future going forward, they need to strongly consider just loosening those standards and becoming just an academy that allows these type of movies to go ahead and be eligible for the awards. I think it should just be based off of it came out in a format that was available for an audience this year.
I think that it's an inevitability. I think it's something that they've been avoiding for a long time because it's that board it's just from what I've heard is incredibly snooty about what they accept into their circle of awards, and I think that they've been trying to avoid, and you have all these directors fighting against the streaming services, but this is an inevitability. You have all these big name actors, big name directors moving onto these streaming platforms. This is art. Movies are movies. Art is art. I think as long as it's a movie, as long as it has a movie runtime, it should be allowed to be considered for the award. And I think that constantly discluding these films is doing this, the Academy Awards a disservice, especially with the rating drops that it has experienced in the past few years.
And like I said, there's still the movies that you and I would never go see on the big screen that are still heading straight to video on demand, and it still had that persona. But that perception is changing because there are some heavyweight films, there's some really outstanding products that are heading straight to video on demand places, either just video on demand directly, like we saw with Scoob and Trolls World Tour, or they're heading to Netflix, like Defy Bloods, which is really garnering some acclaim. So I really think that moving forward, the Academy Awards needs to consider, and also the Golden Globes for that matter, need to just go ahead and reevaluate the way they're doing business because the movie theaters and the movie experience is being reevaluated at this very point as well because families are no longer just for, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and drop $100 at the movie theater. We're thinking about staying home on a big screen that we have because big screens are becoming, you know, as you and I both see every time we go ahead and do these shows as far as for Black Friday and all that, the prices for TV drops every single year even more and more and more. And we're seeing people have all over the place have 50-inch, 60-inch, 70-inch televisions at home. There is less and less of a need to go out and say, you know what, I need to go ahead and drop another $100 at the movie theater.
Yeah, I mean that's a very fair point. I think this is COVID has kind of done a I don't know, created an atmosphere where you have to give credit to these streaming services, and it's also created a market for that wasn't a. It's changed, not create a market, it's changed the market, right? From going out to home consumption, and I think that to not, I think both the Academy Awards and the film industry in general are going to have to take time to consider this, and whether that happens in the form of maybe lessening the length between the release on home video and time in theater, or just having some things that release straight to home video or video on demand or whatever it might be. I think that there's going to be changes that are going to have to be thought about, and I think that the Academy Awards could possibly do a great job in leading that trend.
Well, we'll definitely look into it more as the weeks and months go by, but we are thinking like, you know, so many others out there, that the industry in itself is changing. It was actually sped up by the onset of the coronavirus, I think, and that's something that has to weigh in heavily, but the market and industry is changing, and it looks like all these other old standbys like the Academy Awards needs to change along with it. What are your thoughts out there on Defy Bloods hitting Netflix, Spike Lee's latest film, or Spike Lee's latest joint, as he would say, is doing so well on Netflix, it's garnering great acclaim. Should that and other movies that go straight to video on demand and or streaming outlets like Netflix, Amazon Plus, Amazon Prime, Apple Plus, etc., 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 should movies like this be automatically considered for an Academy Award? We'd love to hear your thoughts on the subject because we think the market and the industry is changing, and we think all these other entities have to go ahead and change along with it. Share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also saw Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, coming up next, we're going to be counting down our 50 to 59 on our top 100-ish movie countdown. Plus, we're going to be previewing a little bit in advance a major video game. Is it the last major video game of this generation? We're going to talk about The Last of Us 2 on the back end of the show as well. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you so much for watching and listening. Everybody out there, we cannot thank you enough for doing so. Please, again, if you can, and you're just a great supporter of ours, if you can give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, or if you can share, like, subscribe to our shows, subscribe to our channel, because we've got about 2,000 subscribers on our Podbean channel. We cannot thank you enough for doing so. We're over 60,000 downloads. We're just truly appreciated. And guess what, Josh? I don't think you remember this, but we're on Pop Culture Cosmos 198. 200 is around the corner, my friend.
Yeah, I mean that's it seems like not too long ago we just made it to episode 100. So thanks to everyone who's been listening.
That's 4 years you've had to put up with me, man. That's 4 years. I feel so sorry for you.
I mean, if you count the two shows and you double that time, it's technically 8 years. So
We're on one in the 170s on the PCC multiverse, so yes, touche on that one. But I wanted to go ahead and continue our countdown for the top 100-ish movie countdown. And I'll tell you what right now, if you get a chance, check out our popculturecosmos.com site. Not only will you see a great anime review from Josh Peterson, which you got to check out because it was really detailed and in depth. You got to check it out. You'll also get to see written updates on the top 100-ish movie countdown, and I'm up to the 80s. It takes a little bit longer to write all this stuff out because I want to make sure it's nice and detailed, but it is going up there little by little. So we're in the 80s now on popculturecosmos.com, but we're a little bit ahead of that right here on the audio portion. If you want to go ahead and check out the other names on the list of our countdown in previous episodes, you can feel free at any point in time within the past few weeks right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos channel. So, my friend, we're going to start off with number 59. That's right, number 59 on our list right now of the top 100-ish movie countdown. And that is a movie I think you and I really, truly love. I did not see this in the theaters. I would love to tell you right now I saw this movie in the theaters. I wish I did, but I didn't. I caught this like most other people did on TNT, TBS, when they first started showing it in the late 90s and early 2000s, and that is The Shawshank Redemption, one of the best, well-crafted, made movies I have ever seen.
it was so Shawshank Redemption was yes, it's a phenomenal film. It is something that I didn't get to see in the theaters either. I saw it. I bought it at Walmart when I was in high school, just because I needed something to watch, and I was pleasantly surprised by how great it was. This was a Stephen King, written by Stephen King, right? Or was it produced by him? I know
No,
he
it's written,
wasn't.
the actual, it's based off of anthology, and I think it's a short story, if I'm not mistaken, from Stephen King.
Okay, yeah, because I knew he was involved in it in some way. But
He
yeah,
did not
it's
direct it. He did not direct it.
okay. Okay, yeah, it's a great film. I mean, it's got it. The writing is really great. The character development's all really well rounded. It's lacking in those horror elements from Stephen King, but at the same time, like it's a different side of his writing that you don't really get to experience in his books, and it's definitely a film that will always stand out in my mind. Is just when I think about great films, it's going to be something that I will always think about.
That's Frank Darabont made it. He's also known for helping bring the Walking Dead to life onto the onto the small screen for AMC. So just to give you a heads up, but yeah, this was just an incredible story. If you have not seen it yet, you're missing out on one of the great movies of the 1990s, much less any time, because tells such a beautiful story. It was overlooked, and that's the big thing, my friend, because yeah, it got some acclaim when it came out, but a lot of people did not see it at theaters, and I'm just so sad that it didn't get the just due in the theaters that it deserved. But it has gotten more than acclaim, more than popularity than we could ever imagine. It's one of those prime examples of a movie that's gone bigger than life since it's actually released into theaters.
I'm sorry. We're are we still talking about Shawshank Redemption?
Yes. Just
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No. It is something that like it's weird because it's something that like people still watch, and then I'm hearing from like younger people younger than me, because I thought that I hit the tail end of that that those movies, and I hear from younger people, hey, this movie's really good. Like even people who are in high school today, as a teacher, I still hear people ask me, hey, have you seen The Shawshank Redemption? Yeah, it's a great movie. I'm surprised people are still watching it. So yeah, it's a movie that has stood the test of time.
Number 58, we've got The General with Buster Keaton. And I know a lot of people on that are listening to here, a lot of people that are listening now or watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube, they haven't had a chance to catch the greatness of Buster Keaton. But as someone who, in the earlier part of the 20th century, was one of the movie industry's first real stars, I think Buster Keaton's greatness should never be understated because it was just he was such a he brought a lot to the movies at that point in time, and he was a superstar at that point in time that very few at that time or even since have ever approached.
Yeah, it was he was I have not seen had not seen him in anything else, but who else was in that movie? It was Michael Clark Duncan was in there too, right? You're muted.
You're talking about the general from the
Oh,
19 Buster
oh, I'm
Keaton.
sorry. I'm looking at the list here. I'm going backwards. All right, I have not seen The General, so tell me about this movie. I'm so
Well,
sorry, man.
it's just I just want to go ahead and say this is a very very good film, but it really just categorizes Buster Keaton's greatness as a superstar of that era. So the General is at 58, something that people need to go ahead and check out. And you know that's something that gets forgotten in our times is that we forget to we see the stuff like you said with Shawshank Redemption. We see the stuff that's here and now or recent or within the past 20, 25 years, but we never really look back in history too much. I know the you know there's I know that there's everybody every now and then some movies that people look back and towards to. But if everybody takes a chance to go ahead and look at some real film history, take a look at Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, stalwarts of that era that were some of the biggest stars of that time, and hopefully they will get a chance with the General at number 58. Number 57, Wedding Crashers, my friend. Wedding Crashers indeed. So that's number 57. Owen Wilson, it's just Vince Vaughn. They're probably at their finest here. I'm not exactly been very much in love with a lot of their work, but in Wedding Crashers, I think their camaraderie and they actually meshed very well in Wedding Crashers, and I think that's a movie that people, for a good laugh, want to check out.
Yeah, it's. I remember seeing this one in theaters, and I remember coming out thinking like, wow, that was a really funny movie. Like I have not seen something that made me laugh that hard in a long time. And I even like that was the first time I saw Bradley Cooper in anything was Wedding Crashers. He played the obnoxious fiance, and I that was a movie that I bought the day it came out, and I could watch it over and over again. But then much like The Hangover, just hearing people quote it over and over again kind of made me tired of it. So I still love the movie. My brother said he watched it a few weeks ago, and he says that it doesn't hold up as well as you'd think, but it's something that I would be willing to sit down and give it and watch again. If I ever had time to just watch movies that I've already seen.
And that's number 57, and that's Wedding Crashers. Number 56 is A Time to Kill. A Time to Kill, that was a movie that came out in the 90s with Samuel L. Jackson just starting to really get his acclaim and starting to really get some good, sweet gigs as far as within the movie theater, within the movies, and he was just starting to get a lot of acclaim and a lot of notoriety. Matthew McConaughey was also in it. He was starting to get his notoriety and his name as well. Sandra Bullock, I think she was a superstar or just getting to be at that superstar level at that point in time. Kevin Spacey's also in the film. Your thoughts on A Time to Kill? It's a really intense drama. I think it really hits at your emotions. So I want to hear your thoughts on A Time to Kill at number 56.
Okay, so this is another one that I have not seen. There's a lot of movies on this list today that I have not seen. So, tell me about it. Like, what's the synopsis here?
Well, again, it deals with a lot of issues that we're dealing with today when it concerns racial divides. A lot of issues where someone is wrongly accused, things that we are seeing now in our society, unfortunately, still even to this day, it was ahead of its time in that sense. And I think it's something that people need to go back to, but also to check out just how well, Samuel L. Jackson and Matthew McConaughey were at that point in time as far as actors, and yet you could see them growing into that superstar persona. But you could also see, Sandra Bullock, who is someone who we haven't seen as much lately on the screen, and that's a shame because she's got such great talent to give out there. And I'd love to see her back in more performances on the big screen because I still think she's got a lot left to give.
Yeah, I agree. Sandra Bullock is definitely she's great. I mean, in a lot of the films I've seen from her, one specifically, I remember the Proposal, and that was something that she has a lot of depth. She's somebody who did come out of the '90s, and she came out of it doing pretty well for herself, I'd say.
Well, that was at number 56, and that is going to be A Time to Kill. You got to check out A Time to Kill, really to go ahead and check out a movie that still resonates even to this day. Number 55 is a movie that you and I like very much. We've noted several times on this show, and that is the original Marvel hit movie, the original superhero hit movie. Okay, maybe you can give the original Supermans with Christopher Reeves. I guess you could probably say that's the original superhero superhero hit movie. But Blade, really the first and only success for Marvel at that point in time before the MCU, and a return, hopefully in the near future, for Mahershala Ali, and he's going to reprise the role of Blade. But this is Wesley Snipes' Blade at number 55.
Yeah, Blade was one of those films where it was the first time something like that had been done. It was the right time to release it, right? Because we had movies like Underworld out there. Resident Evil was out there. Like it was the perfect time for like that gothic action movie, and Blade did a great job of providing that for people. And I remember just seeing the way that it ended. It was your typical late 90s. It was late 90s, right? If I remember correctly, yeah, your typical late 90s action film, but like they did a great job of really portraying a character that had kind of been not given his just due in other forms of media outside the comic books. And I really enjoyed that movie. Really loved the relationship between him and Whistler, and just like how they tried to humanize a character who was in fact half vampire. And it was a very very well done film.
I love Blade. It was just such an awesome movie to see. It was one of my favorite superhero movies before the Marvel Cinematic Universe got underway. It still is a favorite of mine. I thought it was really a great movie to see, and Wesley Snipes was fantastic in his role. Like you said, Chris Christopherson, the character of Whistler. That's again number 55, Blade. Just truly one of the best superhero movies before really the superhero genre could really take off. So I'm glad to see that Blade is well thought of on our list. Again, giving you a rundown of what we've seen so far. 59 is Shawshank Redemption. 58 is The General with Buster Keaton. 57 is Wedding Crashers. 56 is A Time to Kill with Sandra Bullock, Matthew McConaughey, and Samuel L. Jackson. And number 55 is Blade with Wesley Snipes and Chris Christopherson. Number 54 is Girl Interrupted, and Angelina Jolie, one of her best performances. I know she is a name that doesn't get spoken of as much as she once did in her heyday, but outside of Maleficent, she is just really Drive. That's right. I didn't see it right there. See, that's what I get for number 54 is Drive. So tell me, my friend, a little bit about Drive. Really a good movie, a good film, well thought of. Tell me a little bit more about number 54 and Drive.
So Drive is a very artsy film. It is a film that has it kind of reminds me a little bit of Mad Max, where there's the main character does not have a lot of dialogue, but there's still a lot of depth in the character. You know, there's a lot of emotion portrayed even when he's not saying anything, and that was kind of what's so appealing about this film is they were able to make this character art piece, but still make it feel like an action film, kind of like in the vein of Mad Max. But it is a very well done film, very beautiful. Something that I didn't watch until it came, onto video on demand. But I mean, I do wish that I had gone to see this in the theater to experience it the way it was meant to be. But have you seen it?
I have seen it. I thought it was very good as well. I think a lot of people have given it just due. I mean, it's at number 54 on our list, so it definitely has a lot of people there talking about it and at least still thinking of it fondly. So I think Drive is in a good position right there at number 54, don't you?
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad to see that it's got the cult following that it does.
And that's number 54, Drive, right there for you. Number 53. Number 53 is Girl Interrupted, and one of Angelina Jolie's best performances on celluloid, on the film, on film, and this is somebody that outside the Maleficent films and the Maleficent sequel, which didn't do as well, is now available on Disney Plus. I'd like to see more work that she could do. I know she's got some stuff coming up, obviously with the Eternals and all that. But your thoughts on Angelina Jolie and Girl Interrupted, because it is a really good film, a great performance by her, and really something that put her on the map as far as the performance is concerned.
This was probably the first film I ever saw with Angelina Jolie in it, and it was a long time ago, so I don't really remember a lot about it. I remember it's about her in a like a mental hospital, right? If I remember that correctly. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's not something that really like sticks out in my mind, but it's just because I've seen it. I saw it so long ago, and it is one I've always wanted to go back to. But what are your thoughts on it?
Again, it really was one of her breakout hits to put her at the top of the echelon as far as help get her to where she was as one of actually she was considered the leading actress and leading actor at one time in the last decade, earlier part of last decade. She was one of the premier actors out there in Hollywood, getting the big salaries, getting the big notice, getting the big roles. There was a reason why, and this was one of the performances. I think she got nominated for this award, for an Academy Award for this film. So yes, it's just a really great performance by her, and this would really set her off in the right direction. So yeah, if this film, if a lot of people get a chance to go ahead and check out some of the earlier works of Angelina Jolie and want to know why she was at once, like I said, in the last decade, one of the box office attractions and one of the most well-known actors or actresses in Hollywood, you got to check out Girl Interrupted at number 53. Number 52, I'm going to tell you right now, Man of Honor, my friend. So you tell me a little bit more about Man of Honor. I think that's the one with Robert De Niro and Cuba Gooding Jr., if I'm not mistaken.
I haven't seen this one, man. I'm sorry.
Man of Honor. So Man of Honor. That's Men of Honor. Yeah, Man of Honor. Yeah, it's okay. At number 52 is Men of Honor. Okay. At number 52 is Men of Honor with Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro, a movie that a lot of people are still very fond of. I know you said you haven't seen it yet, but I'll tell you what, for something that at the height of Cuba Gooding's Jr.'s career, because he has not been as successful lately as he was back then, I think you can get a good idea of exactly the kind of roles he was getting at that point in time. Plus, Robert De Niro plays a good supporting performance. I think it's a very inspirational movie. It just deals with a lot of the things that you saw back in the day out of the the previous generations of being in the armed forces. So if you get a chance, please check out Man of Honor. That's our number 52 movie, number 52 on our countdown. Number 51 is Moulin Rouge, my friend. So Moulin Rouge, tell me a little bit more about what you think about Moulin Rouge with Ian McGregor and just a cast of a great musical it was in Moulin Rouge.
It was colorful. It had a lot of pretty lights, lots of good singing. I don't know what else I can say about this movie. I did see it once, and I thought the cast was really great. It was not something that I was like, oh yes, I can't wait to watch this film again. I remember, getting to the end and thinking it was okay. I did enjoy the music in it.
But just to me, it was for me. I thought it was very interesting to see the performance of Nicole Kidman and also Ian McGregor. I did not know that they had that kind of range at that point in time. So when I saw it early in the 2000s, I did not know that they had that kind of range. So yes, Moulin Rouge is something that maybe you don't want to go back and see a second time, but seeing it as a musical where there's a lot of good musicals out there, and Hamilton will be on the way soon to Disney Plus. That's another great musical. I mean, Moulin Rouge, I think, is something that a lot of people need to see, especially if they see a movie like Cats and think, you know what, this is not a very good thing to see or not a very good thing to portray on screen, a musical. They need to go ahead and check out Chicago from the early 2000s and also Moulin Rouge at number 51. I think that's a really good film, and I think people need to go ahead and check it out. Number 50 on our list, our final one for this week, is Smokey and the Bandit, my friend. The original Smokey and the Bandit with Burt Reynolds and Sally Field and the whole crew on that. Chasing in the Pontiac Trans Am, that iconic Pontiac Trans Am with Jerry Reed in the semi following him and all that. And then of course Jackie Gleason as the sheriff. It's not the movie that's going to age very well, my friend, because it portrays a lot of different tropes that I think won't fit now. But as a movie that you want to see, if you want to check out more of what the 1970s was like as far as what was going on at that point in time, I think people need to go ahead and check out Smokey and the Bandit because it is a fun film nonetheless.
It is a fun film, and if you like, it probably wouldn't be something you could make today. But I mean, if you're a fan of the Rat Race movie that came out with like Seth Green and Mr. Bean, like you would definitely enjoy this film. It's worth watching if even just once. And Burt Reynolds it's funny because if you look at him today, like we watched a movie a couple nights ago, Mystery Alaska, that has he's the judge and ends up being the coach. Like he is somebody who he aged quick, whereas on the other hand you have like Russell Crowe who has been aging, one day for every 5 years every 5 years he's alive. It's interesting, but yeah, seeing Burt Reynolds, like it is a very fun movie. He does play that character very well in the Pontiac Trans Am classic. There's mention of it in Joe Dirt if you've ever seen that movie. It's a great film.
And that's number 50 on our countdown. And that's number 50 on our top 100-ish movie countdown. Smokey and the Bandit. Let me give you a quick rundown again. Shawshank Redemption at 59, The General with Buster Keaton at number 58, Wedding Crashers at number 57, A Time to Kill at number 56, Blade at number 55, Drive at number 54, Girl Interrupted at number 53, Men of Honor at number 52, Moulin Rouge at number 51, and number 50 is Smokey and the Bandit. Next week we will continue our list of the top 100-ish movie countdown with as we get into the 40s. If you want to check out again our the written version of this, you want to check it out at popculturecosmos.com, or our previous episodes you can check out, which has our detailed 10s list of the 60s, 70s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. You want to go ahead and check that out on the Pop Culture Cosmos audio channels as well. Well, my friend, before we will head on out, I know there's going to be a lot of talk this week about, you were talking about Naughty Dog earlier, but there's got to be a lot of talk about what's going on with The Last of Us 2, because one of the final major exclusive this generation events is going to be taking place at the end of this week with The Last of Us 2. It has earned one of the highest acclaims on Metacritic at a 96, with almost 100 critics already voting on it. It's got a 96 so far as an average rating, one of the highest scores ever for a video game. This game is getting a lot of acclaim, my friend. A lot of acclaim. Could this be the defining video game of this generation?
You know, I have a really hard time trusting, because I saw IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, and I have a really hard time trusting, you know, these big critic companies or these big game critics when it comes to you know, games like this, especially when they give them a 10, because I know that they're very stingy when it comes to giving those 10s out. So it makes me wonder, like, either yes, the game is phenomenal, or there's something else at play. You know, like the whole controversy behind Red Dead. Were they paid to say this? So like I have
mean,
a hard
there's
time.
89. They've got 89 reviews already in the game. That's the average score is a 96.
Yeah,
That's a lot of critics, man.
it is a lot of critics. I mean, my hope is that, you know, my hope is that yes, it is the game that we've all been waiting for, especially in you know, at the tail end of this generation of consoles, and it's something that, you know, we haven't had any big game releases in almost this entire year. So yes, I'm hoping that it is an amazing game, but also, you know, I hope that it's not something that's being built up so high and is not the game that people are making it out to be. I can't wait to get my hands on it, but I just like I have a distrust of critics, as you know.
I know, but when you have almost 100 of them and the average score is a 96, I'm going to throw right that back at you, my friend. You know, if one is on the pay, Naughty Dog is not going to pay almost 100 critics to score the game.
No, I know. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm referencing more like IGN. You know, I have a hard time trusting them, but yeah, I mean, I hope this game is good. God of War was the same thing, and that game was phenomenal. So I'm hoping that this game is, in fact, really good. But while we're on the subject of like these survival horror games, what do you think makes a good survival horror game? Because I'm noticing, I notice a trend with these games is that they are all very, very repetitive. And you do the same things over and over again. And that's why I think The Last of Us, the first one at least, was such a great game, because the story was so well written. You know, even like I'm going back on Xbox 360 and playing Alan Wake, and it's just the same things over and over again, but it's the story that compels you to move forward. So what do you think is it? What elements do you think are needed for a great survival horror game?
I think it's pretty easy, my friend. Just surprise. Just surprise with something new around not every corner, but around every major decision that you make in a video game. I mean, if you make a scare or a jump scare or a surprise at every corner, it's going to lose its effect over the course of the game. I mean, that's the same thing with horror movies. It's just, when do you space these major moments that you need to surprise the audience and fill that in with a quality buffer of things to do that's going to keep them interested, that's not samey. I mean, those kind of tropes we see in almost every video game. I mean, the fetch quest, it's a joke because of a reason. Because the fetch quest was done so much in, you know, so many games before. It's like in the previous generation of games. I mean, that's basically, a lot of that was because out of necessity, because you didn't have the type of power or expansion in your game that you would allow. So you wanted to do all these different things. So we hear this all the time from developers who want to do all these different things, but they couldn't because they had to go ahead and such limitations within the scope of what they were, you know, programming it for. So they go ahead and put the same thing in and just rinse, repeat. I mean, you should see less of that with each succeeding generation. And that's my hope for the PS5, Xbox Series X generation, is that you're going to have all this power and it looks good, but these graphics are not mind-blowing anymore to us. So build it on the game. Build things upon the game. You know, I don't want to hear any more about. In fact, I watch a lot of Mass Effect stuff from the back of the day, as far as because I'm doing a lot of things when it comes to Mass Effect, and I hear Casey Hudson, who is the program director of of Mass Effect at that point in time, he said, you know what, we wanted to put so much in the game, but we couldn't because of the limitations. Well, that seems to go ahead with going back full circle to horror movies. You need to go ahead and make sure you don't put the same thing in, time out, time in, time out, and rinse and repeat, especially with these horror games or horror movies, excuse me. Horror games or horror movies, you need to go ahead and be able to surprise the gamer at major points of time of the game with something new and something fresh that will shock and awe, and not just to say and not just be something that, oh, it's another bad guy I have to kill.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think those edge of your seat moments are important, but I'm also like, not just in survival horror games, but I'm hoping with the PS5 we shift back to a focus on narrative. We've had this generation. You hear these directors like Cory Barlog and a lot of the people over at Microsoft are saying, hey, story is important. We're trying to focus more on story, but this generation of games or of consoles seems to be defined by multiplayer. It's multiplayer. Even Call of Duty got to the point where they removed the campaign from one of their games. So I'm hoping that we're going to start, and this is something Naughty Dog has always done really well, is the focus on the narrative, even in the Uncharted games. But
I disagree with you that this generation will just be known for multiplayer, because you have Uncharted 4, you have God of War, you have The Last of Us 2 now. So many great games that are out there that have this wonderful narrative. Spider-Man had a pretty good narrative as well.
Right. But you ask kids these days, what are you playing? Fortnite, Apex Legends, Call of Duty. Like, it's not the people who are the narrative. The games with the big narratives it seems like they're only going out to a certain sector of gamers. It's not like a narrative game that has reached across generations. And that's what I'm hoping will happen, with the next generation of consoles.
Well, let's hope that happens. But right now, it is The Last of Us 2 coming this Friday to consoles. Well, actually, it's coming to the PlayStation 4. It's coming to the PlayStation 4 this Friday. It's a big game, possibly the final major benchmark release. We could see Miles Morales, Spider-Man be one of those major releases as well. But for right now, I think The Last of Us 2 is being considered one of the last major benchmarks of this generation. I'm hoping that's the case, that it's going to be something that a lot of people are going to love playing. It's getting garner and acclaim from all over, and I'm hoping that The Last of Us 2 will leave this generation. At least it will have us. My hope is that it will at least have us thinking of this generation of video games very fondly. What are your thoughts out there on The Last of Us 2? Are you excited for it? And please, if you get a chance and you're playing it, share us your thoughts on the game as well. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanity Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, my friend, it's been a great conversation as always. I cannot thank you enough for being a part of it on today's show. Looking forward to some great stuff this week, including if you check out our Pop Culture Cosmos on Monday, Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page on Monday, we're going to be doing another rendition of Dungeons & Dragons and the Lost Mine of Phandelver. But my friend, I got to get you involved in some Dungeons & Dragons playing. I know I keep getting requests for Star Wars version of Dungeons & Dragons. If anything's going to lure you in, it's got to be that.
Yeah, I could be interested in that. Speaking to Star Wars, I was reading that BioWare is maybe working on another Knights of the Old Republic game. So, yeah, I'm definitely into the lore right now, especially after the last Star Wars game that came out on Xbox.
And Star Wars Squadrons is coming out as far as a trailer debut on Monday, so we'll talk about that on Thursday's show. But as always, we're going to get you update on the latest and greatest news and trends in pop culture when we see you on Friday's show, The PCC Multiverse. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great